Hey there, it's Mr. Stu. In this message, we will learn what parenting really means. We'll also learn how to identify trusted adults in your child's life. We'll discuss empathy and that big parenting word, attachment, and learn how you and your child can form more secure attachment. Also, stay tuned at the end of the video for an activity you can do with your child that will help them see you are learning to see the world from their perspective, and an activity for you to be able to identify and thank the people who have helped you become the amazing person that you are. Let's check it out. To get started, I'd like to ask you two questions. If you asked a child in your life that you believe you should be a trusted adult to that child, if you asked that child to list the top 5 trusted adults in their life, would you make that list? Second question, if another adult, maybe an adult that you don't trust or an adult that you don't want to be a trusted adult in your child's life, if they were to ask your child to list the top 5 trusted adults in their life, would you be on that list? The reason I ask those questions is because the answer to that question, the top 5 trusted adults in that child's life, those are that child's parents. For better or worse, those are the ones who are helping to raise and rear that child. To some children, there might be a teacher on the list, there may be a counselor, there may be a therapist, it may be mom or dad or a grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle. It could be all sorts of different people that are making it on that list. Do you know who is raising your child? And I say all that to answer the number one question that all of you have right now. Mr. Stu, are you a dad? If you don't know, my name is Stuart Perry, but most of the time I go by Mr. Stu. I'm a child and family therapist, and I am a certified social worker. I've worked in the clinical psychology field for about 11 years. And my main task is helping prevent children from being removed from their home. I've also worked on the opposite side of that, where I have helped with children after they've been removed from their homes. But you want to know right now, Mr. Stu, are you a dad? And the answer to that question is no, but I am a parent, because that's the wrong question. Mr. Stu, are you a dad is a much different question from asking, Mr. Stu, are you a parent? And I can say the same thing for you. You may be a dad, but not a parent. You may be a mom, but not a parent. You may be an uncle with no children of your own, but you are a parent. Maybe you're a teacher who cares so much about the children in your classroom. If that's the case, you are a parent. My whole point is that parent is not a noun. Parent is a verb. So if you were to ask me, Mr. Stu, are you a parent? I can answer that question with a resounding yes. If you were to ask the children that I've interacted with, the top 5 trusted adults in their life, and to list them in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I would make that list for dozens, maybe hundreds of children. And I want to help you make it onto children's lists as well. If there is a child in your life, maybe it's your biological child, maybe it's a child that you are helping to raise, you've adopted, maybe it's a child that you are working with in a professional environment, I want to help you get on that child's list of top 5 trusted adults. Let's go back to that. Back when I was a child, my 5 adults when I was younger would have been my mom and my dad and then 3 ministers. The first minister, his name is Bart, and he is still a minister to this day, but I was Bart's test child. Before he had his own children, he helped to raise me. He would go and pick me up and take me to church every single week. He would let me hang out with him, and he would let me help get things set up for church. He would let me do all of those things, and he definitely helped discipline me. He helped me to understand right from wrong. He helped me to understand what to expect, what not to expect. He helped me to understand what to do, what not to do. In the same way that my parents were doing it, Bart was a parent to me. Another adult that would be on my list is a man named Rodney. He was another minister, and he has 2 children of his own who are both younger than I am. So he adopted me as his oldest child in a metaphorical sense. He adopted me, but he did the same thing. He would help me learn right from wrong. He helped me learn what to do, what not to do, what to expect, what not to expect. He was definitely on my list of top 5 trusted adults. The final person that would have been on my list is a woman named Kathy. And Kathy and I to this day are still very close. Kathy helped me get started in a lot of things. Kathy was there for me when so many other people were not. And Kathy is a mother and a grandmother, but she also helped to parent me. 2 of my answers were my mom and dad. 3 were other parent figures. Those 5 people, even to this day, are the 5 adults that I would say parented me. Parent is not only a noun, parent is a verb. As a matter of fact, I looked it up. A noun definition of parent, according to Merriam-Webster, is one that begets or brings forth offspring. The other noun definition is a person who brings up and cares for another. So maybe you are not one who has begot or brought forth offspring, but you are someone who is a person who helps raise up another. If that's you, you are a parent. Whether you're a teacher, counselor, therapist, aunt, uncle, grandparent, foster parent, adopted parent, you are a parent. You are parenting. As a verb, parent just means to be or act as the parent of. Teachers, I know that you have felt so many times that you are a parent, and it's because you are. I am an uncle, and at times I have felt that I am a parent unless it comes to poop. I don't do poop. My nephew, he can scream that he has pooped all over the floor, and that is someone else's problems. That is the positive about not being a dad. But I am a parent, and you probably are too. If there are children in your life who trust you, you're a parent. So these messages are for you. What does it mean? A parent can be both someone who brings forth offspring as well as someone who just helps to raise. Just as we can say we love someone or love something, but if we don't show that love, if we don't act in a loving way towards that thing or towards that person, can we really say that we love them? The same is true with parenting. If you have a child, but you are doing nothing with that child to help raise that child, help that child learn right from wrong, help that child learn what to do, what not to do, what to expect, what not to expect, if you are not doing any of those things, are you a parent? Or are you baby mama, baby daddy? Which one are you? If you want to be a parent, these videos are for you. If you are a parent, these videos are for you. And maybe you've just been thrown into some type of circumstance where you are now responsible for raising someone. If that's you, you are a parent, and these messages are for you. So no, I'm not a dad, but I am a parent. And I've been a parent to so many children that I can't even tell you how many it's been, and most of them are all from different moms. And I've spent my life becoming the best parent I can be. Now, the great thing is I am at a bit of an advantage, because while you have not had the time to read every single parenting book and go to every single parenting class and attend every single parenting seminar and get the degree and get the certification, I've had that time. So I've read all the parenting books, the good ones and the bad ones, the ones that you are glad you did not read. I've been to all the parenting classes, the ones that taught me the same things over and over and over and over again, because I want to raise children in the best way that I possibly can. So I've disseminated all of that information, and that's what I want to present to you. How to be an effective parent. Through 5 different lessons, we will learn that being a parent is not a noun, it is a verb. And we will learn how to be on that child's list of top 5 trusted adults every single time. There are 2 things that we will come back to in every single lesson. The first is a position of empathy. And the second is we will always discuss what our topic has to do with attachment. We'll also learn what attachment means. It's one of those big words that we hear all the time, but very rarely do we understand it. Let me explain those two things just really quick. Position of empathy and attachment. Position of empathy. Have you ever just sworn off children in the way that some people swear off alcohol after a long night of drinking? Have you ever just had an experience with a kid where you were like, well, that was great birth control because now I have no desire to be a parent whatsoever. But now here you are and you found yourself with children to raise. Maybe you've sworn off children. Maybe they just drove you wild and you did not want anything to do with children. Well, a position of empathy means that even though a lot of things that children do frustrate us, we will believe that there is a reason or an explanation for the things that they have chosen to do. We will choose to believe that if there was a reason that we were in that same situation at that same age and the same things had happened to us leading up to that event, that maybe we would have made the same choice too. A position of empathy says, I am smarter than you now, but I wasn't always smarter than you, so I do understand why you chose to do that. A position of empathy is when your young child has taken spaghetti and thrown it on the wall in an act of aggression or to show how angry they are. A position of empathy looks at that and says, ooh, that is not okay, but I've got to learn how to show them a better way to express themselves. What things did you do when you were a child that your parents just could not understand, did not like? Mine was potty training. I was not potty trained. My mother and I were just having this conversation. I believe I was not potty trained until about 4.5. And the only reason that I got potty trained was because otherwise you can't start kindergarten. They tried all sorts of different things. They tried putting a rag in a freezer so that the rag would be cold on me so that I wouldn't like the feeling. They tried not putting a diaper on me, which made me not go to the bathroom for almost 2 weeks. And when they took me to the doctor said that could kill me. And they said, well, it might kill us if this child doesn't start being more potty trained. My parents just couldn't understand why I wouldn't just go in the toilet. And to this day, I don't understand it either. But my parents chose to take a position of empathy. They chose to understand that for whatever reason, my behavior probably had an explanation. And so they chose to understand. That's the position of empathy. Now let's talk a little bit about attachment. Attachment is one of those big words that we hear all the time when we talk about parenting. It's you want secure attachment with your child, how to build secure attachment. And attachment is just the way that unconditional love is shown and felt between a parent and child. The way that unconditional love is shown and felt between a parent and a child. Parents, this is where it gets a little bit confusing because you might feel that you are showing unconditional love in great and incredible ways, but it's not being received as in the same message that you wanted to give out. We're going to talk about that. Or maybe on the other side, maybe parents, you feel like you've been doing a terrible job at showing unconditional love, but for some reason, your child keeps coming back to you, and that's great. That means that there's some good attachment there somehow. And I'm going to show you how to have even more secure attachment most of the time. There's 4 different types of attachment. The first type, and the type that we all want to try to get to, is what's called secure attachment. It means that your child is secure in their feeling of unconditional love for you, and they feel secure in your showing of unconditional love to them. Secure attachment is where we want to be. That's one of the types of attachment. Now, directly across from that on our graph is this type of attachment. It's called anxious avoidant attachment. If you've ever heard of a disorder called reactive attachment disorder, This is where that lands. These are the children who bring people close just to push them away, and who it seems like anybody who tries to do anything nice gets punched in the face. I have been this person to many, many children. I've been hospitalized 2 times because kids beat me up. I've been through various injuries, all sorts of crises. There have been children that I've worked with that have this type of attachment. There's another type of attachment. This one is called anxious. These are the children who maybe feel love sometimes, but it's an earned love. It's not an unconditional love. And you have to do something in order to gain this love here. That's the anxious attachment. Children are constantly anxious about the love that they feel and the love that's being shown to them. It makes them anxious. Because while that love is there, they're wondering at what cost? What's it going to cost me that you are loving me? So if we have secure attachment, anxious avoidant attachment, and anxious attachment, then the final attachment is avoidant. These are the children and the people, the adults, who grow up and have commitment issues. These are the ones who don't like to get close to people, or they do get close to people until it gets boring, and then they just push them away. They avoid attachment. So if we want to get here, and we want to avoid these other types, I'm going to take you through these lessons, and we will learn how to form more secure attachment. I do want us to understand just a little bit about the groundwork of attachment theory, though. And so to do it, I've made it pretty simple. I've made a graph here. On the x-axis, I have appropriate. So that's what we're going to be talking about. If things are appropriate, if your discipline is appropriate, if your communication is appropriate, if your self-care is appropriate, if you're having tough talks in appropriate ways, that's this x-axis. The more appropriate you get, the more secure you can be. The less appropriate you can get, the more anxious and anxious avoidant you're going to be. The y-axis here is consistency. So how consistent we are. The farther down we are, the more anxious avoidant and avoidant we are. And the more consistent we get, the more secure. Or if expectations are inappropriate but consistent, then we can end up in this anxious area. There's a story in the Bible that talks just a little bit about this, and whether or not you believe the Bible, this is a great story that talks just a little bit about what it means to be attached to something. Jesus tells this story in multiple of the Gospels, and he says this: a sower went out to sow some seed. So this farmer goes out and he's throwing seed all over the ground, and this farmer is not doing a very good job of where he's planting the seeds. He's not getting down and putting them in. He's just walking around and scattering the seed everywhere. Some of that seed falls on the path, and the seed that falls on the path quickly gets snatched up by birds and taken away. Then there's some seed that falls on a rocky part of the ground, and that seed springs real quick into the ground, and it grows and it blossoms, but then it gets scorched out by the sun, and it withers and dies. There's some other soil that grows up, and it grows big and it grows strong, but it was growing around thorns, and so the thorns wrap around that little plant and choke it out, and it dies as well. But there is some seed that falls on good soil. And that seed that falls into good soil, it says that it goes in and it produces so much more. It produces a harvest that is even greater than what people could have imagined. That's how attachment works. If your child is feeling anxious and avoidant attachment, it's just like that seed that fell along the path. These are the children who never had a chance to attach to those people and attach to those relationships that should have been there for structure. They're the ones that land and bounce right off, and they probably got carried away, just like the seed got carried away by the birds. They probably got carried away by CPS, an abusive person, or they've been through multiple foster homes. That's what we see a lot in these anxious, avoidant children. The second type of soil was the type that grew real quick into the ground, but it only had shallow roots because it was in the rocky soil and it got scorched out by the sun. And that's our avoidant children. Those are the children who maybe connect really, really quick, but then as soon as they sprout, maybe it's not as exciting, and they just kind of stay there and they wither and they die. The anxious attachment, that's the type that's the thorny soil. Maybe it lands in that soil and the thorns start to grow all around it, and they start to choke out this little flower. And the flower says, man, that was fun for a little while, but at what cost? And so all these expectations, all of these inappropriate expectations start to wear on that child, and it makes them feel choked out, and they can't stay attached. But there is some that fell along the good soil. That's where secure attachment lands. Because it's just like a flower. Children are a little seed, and there is so much potential in that seed. And they look little, they don't look like much. But if you will plant them, if you will give them the things that they need, both emotionally and physically, if you will let them form attachment that is secure, that is appropriate, consistent, that shows unconditional love, and that is received as unconditional love, then you can have a child that when they grow up, they produce a harvest that is so much more than anyone could have ever predicted. I've worked with some children who started in this anxious, avoidant attachment territory. But through the caring relationships of some incredible people in their lives, they were able to find those 5 trusted adults. They were able to find some incredible 5 trusted adults, form that secure attachment, and move and do some things that none of us ever even thought were possible. And the same is true for you. Wherever you think you and your child's attachment is right now, it is not too late. You can still form secure attachment. And that's what these lessons are going to talk all about. It's going to be about appropriate communication, appropriate discipline, appropriate self-care, appropriateness when we're having tough talks about sex and suicide, consistency in those things, consistency when it comes to discipline, consistency when it comes to communication, consistency when it comes to taking care of yourself, and consistency when it comes to having those tough talks about sex and about suicide. And if you will do those things, wherever you find yourself today, you can move into this secure attachment. And if you'll do that, if you will form a secure attachment with a child, and they feel unconditional love, and you are showing unconditional love, then that relationship will produce a harvest so much more than anyone could have ever imagined. So we are going to talk about a position of empathy and attachment in every single lesson that we go through. The next 4 lessons are this: replacement of ineffective or abusive discipline. So we're going to replace some discipline strategies that maybe just aren't useful. We're going to talk about spanking. We're going to talk about some rewards that maybe you're not using that are great rewards to be using. We're going to talk about some punishments that maybe you're not using that are great punishments to be using. So we're going to talk about a position of empathy, attachment, replacement of discipline. Then we're going to talk about effective communication. Talking to children is different than talking to adults. And talking to opposite gender children or non-binary children or children in a different situation is different than talking to any other child. So how can we be effective communicators no matter what child finds themselves in our presence? A position of empathy, attachment, replacement of discipline, effective communication. We're going to talk about nurturing yourself. And we will learn that the way you look at yourself and the way that you take care of yourself is the way that you will look at and the way that you will take care of your children. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The way that you take care of yourself is a direct reflection of the way you will take care of your children. And then our final topic, we're going to talk about some tough talks to have I believe there are two major tough talks that we can talk through. That's the talk about sex and the talk about suicide. Using some of the qualities that we talk about in this tough talks lesson, you will be able to talk to your child about anything that is difficult. Any tough talk you might need to have. Maybe it's about discipline. Maybe it's about something that happened at school, something that happened at home. Maybe it's a talk about divorce and what that means. You'll be able to use some of our tactics to have a tough talk with your child, and I will walk you through directly how to have the talk about sex and how to have a talk about suicide with your child, no matter what age and no matter which attachment you find yourself in. And if we do that, after all of our lessons, we will know what it means to be a parent. That we have a position of empathy, that we are always focused on attachment, that we have replaced ineffective and abusive discipline strategies, that we will effectively communicate, that we will nurture ourselves, and that we will have those tough talks. If you can do that, then you can be a parent. No matter what type of parent you are, you might be a teacher parent, you might be an uncle parent, maybe you're a mom parent, a dad parent, a grandparent parent, an adoptive parent, a foster parent, whatever type of beautiful parent you are. These lessons are going to help you form that secure attachment with your child, and you will be on that list of top 5 trusted adults every single time. I hope this message helped you to see how you can form a more secure attachment with your child. Here's an activity to try so that your child can see you're learning to see the world from their perspective. You know those posters and pictures that are hung up around your house or maybe even in your child's room? Think about this. Whose eye level are those pictures at? Are they set so that you can enjoy them, or are they set so that your child can enjoy them? Allow your child to choose one picture, one poster, and put it at their eye level. Then as they grow, allow that poster or picture to move up the wall along with their growth. Now for yourself, think about those 5 trusted adults that you identified. Is there anyone that you can reach out to and thank for helping raise you and helping you become the amazing person that you are? If so, reach out and say thank you. Now think, how would life be different and better if you and your child had more consistent and secure attachment? As you dream big, prepare yourself for the next lessons, because they're going to help you and your child have that secure attachment. Until next time, spread the word and share the love.